17 months have passed since Ichigo's battle with Aizen. Having lost his dormant Shinigami powers and hollow reiatsu still lingering within him, Ichigo is now unable to access his Quincy powers. Heeding Kisuke's warnings, Ichigo has been living a rather normal life. While heading home from school, he helped out a mysterious man who apparently knows who Ichigo is. The next day, Ichigo is abducted by his boss at school to go to work. It's there that the mysterious man appears as a client. He is asking for information on Ichigo's father, Isshin Kurosaki. He rattles Ichigo and tells him he doesn't know much about his family. Before he stirs the pot even more, Ikumi ends the meeting. As the man takes his leave, he tells Ichigo to pay a visit to Urahara's shop. Seeing his sister Karin leave the shop, Kuko Ginjo properly introduces himself. Ichigo tells Ginjo he doesn't fully trust him, so Ginjo gives him a card and parts ways. Back at school, after talking with Orihime, Ishida notices the hollow reiatsu clinging to Ichigo. Back home, Ichigo is concerned about what Ginjo said. Orihime pays him a quick visit to check up on him. Ishida also had the same idea, but sees someone suspicious. He chases after him only to be caught off guard. Ichigo gets wind of this news and rushes to the hospital. With both Ichigo and Orihime present, Ishida's father, Ryu, lectures him on how he was slashed by an enemy. This news shocks Ichigo as Ishida tells him it's none of his concern. Leaving the hospital, Ichigo is in turmoil with not being able to do anything. This pushes him to call Ginjo. The two meet up at execution headquarters where Ichigo learns about Fullbringers. With all of this information, Ichigo is shocked to see that Chad is also a member of Ginjo's group. Having calmed down, Ginjo explains to Ichigo that the execution's goals are to get rid of their powers. In order to do that, they need Ichigo to regain his Shinigami powers. Realizing this will help their cause and give him the ability to fight as a Quincy once more, Ichigo agrees to help. The first step to getting his Shinigami powers back is awakening his Fullbring. He begins training as Ruruka sends him into her dollhouse. Not knowing what to do, Chad arrives in the nick of time to give him a hint. Ichigo reaches for his badge and his Fullbring awakens. Trying out a few different things, Ichigo fires an attack that's reminiscent to the likes of a Quincy's arrow. With training done for the day, Ichigo and Chad head home. Chad senses a change in Orihime's reiatsu and the two head in her direction. They arrive at her place to see if she's okay, but Orihime doesn't tell them about her confrontation. Ichigo gets a sense that she's hiding something and goes to the execution headquarters to ask Ginjo if he knows something. He tells Ichigo that it must have been Tsukishima, the former leader of the execution. With him on the offensive, Ginjo plans to speed things up. Heading home, Ichigo notices his father and Kisuke. With Ginjo's remarks from their earlier meeting, Ichigo has now become cautious around Kisuke. The following day, Ichigo starts his second day of training his Fullbring. His opponent is Jackie Tristan. The two exchange blows as Ichigo uses his previous battle experience to gain the upper hand. All of a sudden, Ichigo's Fullbring begins to go haywire. Ichigo is unaware that the cause of this is the hollow reiatsu reacting to his Fullbring. Outside the dollhouse, Tsukishima invades the hideout. Looking around, he destroys it and Ichigo appears cloaked in darkness. Chad describes it as a clad-type Fullbring and it reminds him of Ichigo's attire when he uses his Quincy powers. Taking the fight outside, Ichigo fires a volley of dark energy in the shape of arrows. Tsukishima quickly dispatches them and can tell Ichigo has yet to master his Fullbring. He goes in for the kill only for Ginjo to take over. As the two clash, Chad tells Ichigo that he isn't strong enough to fight Tsukishima. This angers Ichigo, which makes the hollow reiatsu affect his Fullbring a second time. He uses the boost of energy to fire an arrow and grazes Tsukishima's hand. Yukio then uses his Fullbring to capture Ichigo and flee with the other execution members. While all that was happening, Kisuke informs Ishin that Ichigo's condition is getting worse. The two are hard at work trying to find a means to cure Ichigo's condition before it's too late. At another hideout, Ginjo and Ichigo begin training in Yukio's Invaders Must Die. Having been heavily injured from the training, Chad brings Orihime to heal Ichigo's wounds. Noticing Ichigo is distracted with thoughts, Ginjo slashes his eyes in the attempt to bring his fighting spirit back. Ginjo reveals to Ichigo that it was a trap and that he intends to kill Chad and Orihime. Hearing this, it causes the hollow reiatsu to fuse with Ichigo's fullbring. Ginjo helps Ichigo contain it and tells him that he needed to be in a state of anger to reach this stage. After some rest, they continue training so Ichigo's body can maintain his new form. Done for the day, Ichigo heads home where his sisters and friends happily greet him. He notices Tsukishima is with them and attacks him. He asks what he did to them, as everyone demands he apologizes. Distraught, Ichigo flees his home. He's stopped by Ginjo and is told that the other members of Execution were attacked by Tsukishima. They head to an abandoned building and assess the situation. Ginjo guesses that Tsukishima's ability is to affect the past of the people he's cut. They both agree that the best course of action is to kill Tsukishima. Just then, Yukio arrives to bring them to Tsukishima's hideout. They arrive, and Ichigo's friends, sisters, and even Akumi is telling him to apologize. Ichigo runs upstairs only to be met by the other members of the execution. Tsukishima and Ginjo arrive, and Ichigo activates his fullbring. Ichigo is able to get behind Tsukishima and shoot off an arm. Before he could attack again, Chad and Orihime arrive to defend him. With his arm healed, Tsukishima tells Ichigo that he is the one with false memories, which puts him in a blind rage. The fight continues outside as Tsukishima barely blocks an arrow. Furious, Ichigo asks what he has done to his friends. Tsukishima takes this opportunity to strike, but Ginjo takes the hit for Ichigo. Looking to be unaffected by Tsukishima's ability, Ichigo is relieved to still have Ginjo on his side. Just then, Ashita arrives with his bow activated. Ichigo questions which side he's on as he yells that Ginjo was the one who attacked him. Ichigo and Uryu are down and Ginjo takes Ichigo's full-bring powers. With Ichigo at his lowest, the hollow reiatsu begins to consume him. On the verge of transforming, he is stabbed. He looks behind him to see Rukia holding the sword. She tells him she made it in time as Ichigo begins to absorb the energy within the blade. Now with Shinigami reiatsu running through his veins, Ichigo is able to manifest his Quincy bow and arrow once more. Ichigo can now keep the hollow reiatsu in check. Ginjo is shocked to see Ichigo's form after absorbing all that energy. Ryuki explains to him that Ichigo was originally a Quincy with dormant Shinigami powers. Rukia tells Ichigo to show Ginjo the power he's acquired through all the hardships he's been through. Firing a giant arrow at Ginjo, he takes a direct hit. Ginjo not only survives the attack, his fullbring has gotten a stronger form. To make matters worse, he shares a portion of this power with the other members of the execution. Looking like an uphill battle, reinforcements arrive from Soul Society. With the matchup set, Ichigo is paired with Ginjo. Surprisingly, Ishida is also there as a fellow Quincy and to get revenge on Ginjo. Ginjo wreaks havoc on the battlefield as Ichigo and Ishida hide to try and find a weakness. Ishida tells Ichigo to wait for an opening as he goes out and faces Ginjo. They fight, and it seems Ishida is victorious. Ginjo then activates his Bankai and attacks, but Ichigo stops him with an arrow. Ichigo shoots another large arrow in the air, breaking Yukio's dimension. As a last-ditch effort, Ginjo tells Ichigo the truth about the deputy badge. He says the true purpose of it is so that Soul Society can monitor and control him. Ichigo had his doubts, but seeing as they all helped him become a Quincy again, he's willing to trust them. The two exchange blows as Ichigo finishes it off with one final attack.
行くぜ月が天使
死神だけじゃねえフォローでもねえ俺にはまだ使える力がある
Days after Ginjo's defeat, Ichigo heads to Soul Society. As a fellow human, Ichigo asks the goatee 13 if he could bury Ginjo's body in the world of the living. They agree to his request, putting an end to the execution.